Buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for allowing me to chair this session. I'm surrounded by three great friends and representatives of the Spanish market, and we're going to talk about the recovery of the Spanish economy and the Spanish market, and we're going to focus on the Spanish market. And we've been seeing We've been discussing the various markets, and now we're going to discuss the Spanish market. First of all, I'd like to introduce our friends on this panel. On my left, Martín Navaz, the CEO of Confide, one of the most important insurance brokers in Barcelona, with headquarters in Barcelona and Madrid. For 25 years. Congratulations on your 25th anniversary. And also chairman of ADECOSE, which is the main association of insurance brokers in Spain. On his left, Daniel San Millán, Director for Corporate Risk at the Ferrovial Group. Ferrovial is one of the main Spanish construction companies. Currently, it's a highly diversified group in the sectors of construction, services and concessions. It operates in over 26 countries on all 5 continents, has a turnover of over 8 billion per year and a workforce of over 66,000 employees. He's also chairman of IGREA, the initiative of Spanish risk managers. And this is a young initiative that started in 2006. And on my right, Juan Carlos López Porcel. He's risk manager at ArcelorMittal in Spain. ArcelorMittal is the main steel and mining producer worldwide, with facilities in over 20 countries. In 2014, ArcelorMittal had a turnover of $80 billion. They have 245,000 employees all over the world, 10,000 in Spain, and he's also the chairman of the Association of Spanish Risk Managers. Glasses, old age. To introduce the panel, I'm going to give a number of figures on the Spanish economy. Many people say you're recovering, you're on the right path. I'm the son of an accountant, so I'll only give figures, not opinions. I'm only going to show a few slides with recent figures in recent weeks and months in the Spanish economy. Here we see the forecasts regarding GDP for 2015 and 2016 from various sources, some more optimistic, others less. The most optimistic, as usual, are the government's 2.9% growth for both 2015 and 2016. But you can see that there's a consensus that our GDP will grow around 2.5% in the next 2 years. And this other slide clearly shows that we are the fastest growing economy in the European Union for 2015. We're on a par with the advanced economies, a little bit behind the United States, and a little bit behind the emerging economies. But it's clear that we seem to be on the path of recovery. Our big problem, unemployment, the unemployment rate. An unemployment rate that we've been punished by during this crisis. And you can see the chart from 2008 to 2009, how there's a major increase. In Spain, we've been very pleased with a reduction of almost 500,000 people less unemployed in the last year. And we're very pleased because in the month of April we had a historic figure, almost 120,000 less unemployed in our economy. And this seems to indicate that we're on the right path. I think that this chart clearly expresses what the crisis has looked like in Spain in the last few years. These are developments in the Spanish bond. it was below 50. We can see how it went up exponentially, and it went up to over 600 euros. We were on the point of being bailed out. That was the middle of 2010, is it? And I can't quite see the numbers. 2010. And with Draghi's insinuation that he was going to protect the currency, it started to go down. Things started to recover, and we're back to levels that are almost the same as before the crisis, although there's been a slight increase the last few days because of the issues in Greece. But it seems to be behaving in a very stable way at around 100 points. Real news from our economy. Real news, not forecasts. Our companies are investing again. There's money again to fund operations. Again, we have a lot of operations, and some are listed here. Acciona with important works in Norway, Abengoa, Eolun Acciona, CLH takes over the pipelines in the UK, Billard Mead buys Ferroatlántica, one of the main silica companies in the US. Aena continues to invest. Sabadell Bank buys TSB Lloyds. Repsol carries out a major corporate operation by buying Talisman in the United States. And it seems that final approval will be given to the energy plan. So there's funding again at our companies, and the Spanish economy is moving. This was taken from last week's press. In recent months, Spanish companies have invested 38 billion in corporate acquisition operations abroad. And during the last year, 7 of the large IBEX 35 companies have attained record capitalization figures on the stock market, including Mapfre. Well, I just wanted to give this quick overview of the Spanish economy, and we're going to focus more later on through the questions, and we'll see how this affects the corporate insurance market in Spain. And now I'm going to ask the speakers to present their associations. 5 minutes each, please. And then we'll move on to the discussion. If you'd be good enough to start, Martin. Thank you very much, Alfredo, and thanks very much to Mapfre Global Risk for inviting us to this magnificent meeting once again. Congratulations on the extremely high participation you always have, and thank you for giving us the opportunity of presenting our organization before this audience. ADECOSE is an association that started in 1977. We are a sectoral lobby that defends the professional and business interests of its members with a clear aim of highlighting the function of insurance brokers in society and realizing the value of insurance, because we find that there's not only a lack of knowledge about our sector, but in certain areas, in financial or regulatory areas, insurance issues are accompanied by other issues where the focus of the importance of insurance is overlooked. And I'll discuss this a little more at length later on. We promote innovation in the sector. We are working on connectivity. We have a clear international vocation. We have a relationship with a broad range of stakeholders, not just in the insurance and pension fund sector, which is obviously our main area, but we have developed these relationships, as we'll see, and we have an ethical code that are based on the pillars of being objective, independent, and ethical. We have a light structure, 3 people full-time, and a very participative board, and some of the members are here with us today. And that's fundamental for an organization like ours with a small structure to be involved in everything we're involved with. Just a few figures. In 2014, the premiums in the sector were 55 billion, approximately, 55% non-life insurance and 45% life insurance. 80% have been brokered by agents and brokers through the classic channels, 42%, by insurance banking, 38%, and they're very strong in life insurance. The total number of brokers, 5,500 companies or individuals, and agents and insurance, banking insurance around 90,000. To relate this to our association, we have 115 brokers that are members of the 5,000 that exist in Spain, 5,000 professionals. Our companies have 6 billion in premiums, around 3 million euros in claims. Our market share is around 50%, and these are figures for 2011, and it will soon be updated. I haven't shown it here, but regarding the employees in the sector, we're 33%. 50% in turnover, 33% in employees. As I said, we have an international vocation. We belong to BIPA in Brussels. This is the European lobby, the only lobby. And we have the General Secretariat and a Vice President, and our manager belongs to the Directors Committee that meets every month to lay down the guidelines for the Federation. We're members of the Mediterranean brokers. We're in COPAPROCE, which is the Latin American Association, and in the World Federation of Insurance Intermediators through BIPA, and the annual meeting was held recently in Barcelona. Who do we have a relationship with, to give you an idea of our activity? Well, with EIOPA, the European Insurance and Occupational Pensions Authority, with all the European MPs, including the most recent ones like Podemos, with the European Commission through the insurance unit at the DG Interior Market and Services, with the Spanish representation at the UN, obviously, and with the Spanish authorities, with the Ministry of Justice, and with the parliamentary groups in Spain, Congress and Senate, and we now and then submit amendments with the Bank of Spain, with SEPLAC, to try to explain what insurance brokers are. They can't quite understand it. And sometimes they get us into considerable trouble because they don't consider our dimension. With the DG for the Treasury and Financial Policies, so that we won't end up buying things we don't need. With the National Committee for Markets and Competition, and with the Spanish Data Protection Agency, which is one of our main concerns, and with the Employers Association. And we work on practical aspects. We provide good practice guidelines to have more transparency in the relationship with insurance companies. We're also involved in health insurance, a very important area, with the Insurance Compensation Consortium. We have an annual barometer which helps to closely monitor aspects that are helpful to all of us to be more efficient. We hold forums on interesting subjects such as internationalization, where Alfredo explained the position of MAPFRE, for example. And these are things that can be done with our kind of group. And then we have an annual dinner and awards with the participation of about 450 people. And this is one of the highlight events in the insurance sector in this area. And the issues we're concerned about or occupied with, European issues on the Insurance Distribution Directive, it's currently at a key phase. The director on money laundering prevention, regulation on data protection. Now, all this is with the aim of our characteristics and dimension being considered in all of this. And we've also written on to the European authorities on cross-sales in relation to banking insurance. And in Spain, we're involved in Solvency II and the mediation law, or improvements in the insurance contract, in the mortgage directive on transposition, Sepp Black, the law to promote business funding. And the political parties accepted one of our amendments, whereby if a customer is going to have reduced funding, they have to be notified with given a certain notice, 3 months. And apart from being able to take their credit history to another organization to obtain better financing. So for the first time that the financial institutions will have to accept this, and we'll see how it evolves. And this is basically what I wanted to comment on in this first presentation. Well, you brought up some very interesting subjects for the discussion, especially in regard to the legislative issues. I'll now hand over to our friend Juan Carlos, who's also going to give us a brief presentation on AGES. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting AGES and, as usual, congratulate you on the success of your meetings. And I also hope that you'll do something special next year for the 15th anniversary. We've prepared a video that we hope you won't find too boring. It's not like the video of the Volvo Ocean Race presented by MAPFRE yesterday, but it does show our values, our team spirit, and if it's ready and we can watch it, we'll be delighted.
AGES lleva más de 30 años promoviendo la gerencia de riesgos y seguros en España. El pasado año, más de 1.600 profesionales del sector empresarial y asegurador se dieron cita en nuestros actos de formación, foros y congresos. AGES reconoce anualmente la labor de las empresas que destacan por su implicación en la gerencia de riesgos mediante un acto de distinción. En 2014, el Corte Inglés, Michelin, Laboratorios Esteve, GlaxoSmithKline, Enagas, BASF y ArcelorMittal España fueron los galardonados. Además, con motivo de nuestra efeméride, AGES quiso homenajear a todos sus presidentes. 2015 ha llegado cargado de novedades. A principios de año se aprobaron por unanimidad el cambio de estatutos de la asociación, destacando 2 modificaciones. La Junta Directiva estará formada por el 50% más 1 de gerentes de riesgos y el presidente y los vicepresidentes serán gerentes de riesgos. AGES está compuesto por el Comité Ejecutivo, formado por don Juan Carlos López Porcel, presidente de AGES y director de Riesgos y Seguros de ArcelorMittal España, don Alfredo Zorzo, vicepresidente primero de AGES y responsable de seguros de Orange España, don Mario Ramírez Ortúzar, vicepresidente segundo de AGES y jefe de seguros y riesgos de la compañía logística de hidrocarburos, don Gonzalo Iturmendi, secretario general de AGES y administrador único del bufete G. Iturmendi y Asociados, y doña Alicia Soler Rubia, executive manager de AGES, así como otros 17 miembros que participan activamente en los diversos grupos de trabajo de la asociación. En AGES se desarrollan varios grupos de trabajo como el de biomedicina, investigación, responsabilidad social corporativa, ciberriesgos, medio ambiente, gerentes de riesgos e ISO. Uno de los más destacables es el de biomedicina, que está desarrollando el proyecto Cronos y que este año celebra su primer congreso anual. Los coordinadores del grupo son doña Ana Villanueva, directora médica de Mafre Re, don José Miguel Rodríguez Pardo, profesor de Ciencias Actuariales y Financieras de la Universidad Carlos III de Madrid, y el doctor Antonio López Farre, Premio Nacional de Investigación por la Real Academia Nacional de Medicina. También destacamos el grupo de trabajo de ciberriesgos, en el que participan 13 gerentes de riesgos y que se encuentra en una primera fase en la que están analizando las amenazas comunes entre sus organizaciones. Otro de los grupos de trabajo a destacar es la labor que viene realizando la comunidad de gerentes de riesgos de Agers, que pretende fortalecer la profesión desarrollando un lobby de opinión. El pasado año, el grupo de trabajo de gerentes de riesgos presentó su primer manual sobre programas de seguros internacionales y este año prepara el segundo con las conclusiones sobre catástrofes naturales. El pasado 9 de abril, Agers presentaba su nueva delegación en Cataluña. Con la asistencia de más de 200 profesionales, podemos decir que Agers fue presentada en la sociedad catalana con una gran aceptación y una muy cálida acogida. Contamos con la representación para Cataluña de don Santiago Goñi, socio de 121 Consultores, don José Amézola, gerente de riesgos de la SEDA de Barcelona, y la doctora Montserrat Guillén, miembro del Colegio de Doctores de la Universidad de Barcelona. Agers fomenta la relación con otras asociaciones de gerencia de riesgos de ámbito internacional como FERMA, en la que somos especialmente activos, al igual que otras como IFRIMA o Alaris. Llegados a la treintena, Agers recoge los frutos de 30 años de trabajo, en esta década del ingenio en la que se encuentra, según palabras de su propio presidente.
Muchas gracias, Juan Carlos.
De nada, muy bien.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I know that you've prepared this video and you've been very enthusiastic about it, so thank you very much. And now, Daniel Samignan, who is the chairperson of IGREA, could you please talk about your company in 5 minutes? Well, even in less than that. Let me have the remote control, please. Good morning. Thank you, Alfredo. Thanks, Mapfre. Thanks to all of you. The truth is that it's wonderful to be here with so many friends. It was, 2 years ago, we could hold this every year, couldn't we? So it'd be wonderful to see what you're going to schedule for your anniversary. Right, well, let me now talk about my company.
Ahora. ¿Qué es IGREA?
What is IGREA? IGREA is a family. I know that it sounds somewhat silly, but it's the case. It was born in 2009. We're very young. And there are 6 of us, and well, now it's 38. And I think that it was born out of necessity because the Spanish market needed it and because it has large multinational corporations. And we didn't have an association with the risk managers in it, something that were to independently defend the interests of our firms. At IGREA, the members are the companies themselves and not the physical individuals. So this is something that did not exist in Spain, and it was born because it was necessary to establish it. And now we're 38, we don't have a major structure. And the truth is that all of us working for IGREA are there for our vocation, and one of our main characteristics has to do with independence. Independence means that we do not accept any sponsoring nor any subsidies, and we self-fund ourselves through the membership fees so that we can defend our interests with absolute freedom and the interests of other companies. And I think that we are working responsibly. So in other words, we're not here to do lobbying in terms of pricing or claims or whatever. No, I think that this is much more complex than all that. And it's all about allowing the risk managers to speak up in a mature market like the insurance market, where we had a number of insurers, in other words, where each one had their own associations, but we were lacking an association defending the interests of risk
risk managers.
And
the values and the objectives of IGREA are very precise and very powerful too. And the first one we agree with AGES, and our friend Juan Carlos is here. AGES is an association with a very long track record. We show a lot of respect for it. We consider it's necessary, and I believe that we have a wonderful and very cordial relationship, and we have more and more ties. And there's no antagonism, no matter what the press has to say about this. We have a wonderful relationship, and some of our objectives even coincide. For instance, promoting our profession, and that is something we agree upon completely. And then there's another main objective, which I mentioned in the first part of the presentation, which has to do with defending the interests of our associate partners and their risk managers vis-à-vis institutions, the market and regulators. And this is something where we only are 6 years old and we're doing things little by little, but people are starting to know us, and we are bothering others with regulatory issues, and we've been working with FERMA on some capital issues with European regulators. In relation to the regulatory chaos we have in the world on the non-admitted, the international plans, and where we are moving in a very nebulous terrain. And all of us here that have international partners want things to work in an efficient and legal manner in all of the countries where we are present. And this is where we are applying pressure. And the third point, and this is the biggest value of IGREA, the exchange of experience and the transmission of knowledge and speaking to each other. I said that we are a family. And look at the value of IGREA. And these are the associate partners, the members. And this is a slide where you can see the list of all of our current members or partners. So it's 38 of us now. These are very large companies, great professionals, very good friends of ours too. And I would like to invite all of you, if you do not belong to IGREA, and we only want to have risk managers, because I'm afraid that we do not accept insurance companies, nor are we going to do that. So we don't accept any insurers or any brokers. And I would like to invite you, do you know how much it costs to be an IGREA member? You're not going to believe this. It's 500 euros. Less than what you've paid for your air ticket from Madrid to Bilbao. And I can assure that this is pure gold. I was at the office. Well, here's Javier Navas, who's the managing director, who does some wonderful work. Where are you, Javier? Or have you left the room? Well, anyway, there's no country in the world in which there's not an associate company of IGREA present. You don't know the headaches we avoid by being able to talk to other colleagues on a country we're heading for a new country. So having lunch with a colleague saves you 2 years of very intense efforts in a country, in Kazakhstan, for instance. Lourdes, are you here? Well, she went all the way to Kazakhstan to do business. I thought that it didn't even exist, that country. But the main assets of IGREA are its partners. And it's wonderful to discuss things with our colleagues. We don't depend on anybody. We can do whatever we want. So that means, for instance, that we've carried out an analysis on cyber risks. And in 2 hours, we learned much more than in all the presentations that our broker colleagues gave us on the product. Why? Because Telefónica started working with that 10 years ago. And that was pure gold for all of us that didn't really know very much about that kind of coverage and wanted to buy it. And those 2 hours saved us 2 years of intense work. So we'll move on to the panel discussion. Sorry. Well, as I love Igrea a lot. Okay, so please join us. It's wonderful. And even if you don't register, you can call us because we're friends. First, the risk manager communities. This is why we are cooperating with AGES. All the risk managers from AGES can join Igrea, and it could also happen the other way around too. And please, come on, join us. Have I finished late? No? No, thank you very much, Dani. I think that everybody has very clear in their minds what Igrea is all about and what you are trying to represent. But I think that the time has come to move on to the Q&A. The title is Recovering the Spanish Economy, and how does this affect the issue or the field of corporate risks in Spain? And I would like to ask you, as risk managers working for large corporations, Juan Carlos and Dani, if the economic recovery, is it affecting the daily activities of your companies and your management practices, your risk management practices? Well, I agree with what is said about the steel sector. According to the employers' information, which is UNESID in Spain, there's been an increase in consumption figures, and now we're talking about business figures of something like 14.2 million tons. And it's a sector that employs about 60,000 people, which recycles 11 million tons of scrap. So since 2007, which is when the crisis began, the truth is it's the first time that we can say something positive. And from the point of view of 2015, we have two major steel consumers. One is the automotive business and the other one is the construction business. It seems that the automotive business is what is going to lay down the trends, and it's growing. And it's expected that in Spain 1 million vehicles be sold this year, which is a record. But always following the Chinese trend, they expect to sell 25 million cars or vehicles. But by 2020, the figures are pointing at 100 million vehicles. But in the case of Spain, in the EU, we are selling many vehicles within the European Union, and we think that this could be an important move for the steel business to grow yet again in 2015. And on the international front, something that I would like to say is that last year, well, we smashed the production record with 1.6 million tons of steel, although there's been a slight slump in terms of product sales because of the drop in the price of mineral ore, of iron ore, sorry. And to finish, and after surviving the euro crisis that we had last year, or at the end of last year, we think that this issue is going to come back to the political agendas again. So in our sectors, we're talking about industrial renaissance. And we would like to ask the policymakers to give us a helping hand by adopting the necessary measures so that this recovery can become a full reality. Thank you very much. Daniel, and what about from the point of view of a major diversified group that provides construction services? Do you have that positive outlook? Well, yes, the figures that you've just presented are very clear, and the recovery has arrived. Although with nuances, of course, because yes, the GDP figure is good, the prospects are good, but this has to land firmly on the ground. But so that it can reach all of us, I would like to ask politicians to be courageous and to reactivate investments. I could show you a chart, but no, I won't. But in any case, we could talk about investments, because right now, Spain is the country that is investing less as a country. I'm not talking about companies. It's the company that less invests. And we're talking about below 60% compared to 2007. So we have to invest so that these GDP figures can reach out to everybody, to families, so that unemployment can be reduced, so that companies can grow. So there has to be responsible investments, because we know that there are contractors that want to build airports that are never used and motorways that are never going to be opened either, and we're not interested in that. And the truth is that we're now paying for the consequences of that. But yes, to recovery, of course. But when are things going to change? First, it's the macro level, and then this is supposed to go down to the micro level. And let's only hope that we'll be able to manage this growth properly so that our companies and our families can grow and so that people can live better. Well, it's clear that we need to have more public investments in the Spanish economy. But Martín, could you please tell us something a little bit about the Spanish companies, about the SMEs, because you have a much more clear picture in your mind than our dear panelists. Well, in relation to what Dani has just pointed out, of course, it's true. And with the many bodies that provide these favorable data on the country is going well. And you know that there's always a psychological factor involved. If we end up believing in things, things will go much better. And I think that everybody's more than willing to believe in this. But along the lines of what you were asking, and when by the time this reaches this SME, or by the time it reaches private consumers, quite a lot of time has to go by. And the insurance sector, it takes a little bit longer to suffer from the consequences of the crisis. But in any case, what is true is what we have seen is that SMEs, they have been surviving. Not all of them, of course, and not all of the sectors find that it's easy to do that. But they've been setting up operations in other countries. And as you brokers know perfectly well, and you large corporations know that we've assisted them. And it's been very helpful for them too. So these SMEs, you have to bear in mind that the insurance broker does all sorts of things, works as an agent, as a broker, as an advisor, and finds information on what's going on in the country, etc. And these companies are becoming more and more professional and end up having their own structures. But with regard to reductions in premiums, this has conditioned us a lot, because there's no new business. Things are a little bit more calm. And this, well, I'm not going to explain this at this field because you know it perfectly well, because it has to do with the major accounts that the insurance market knows, and we know what sort of accidentability we're talking about. And little by little, the insurance companies have set the limits, and now will have to change. But in the case of SMEs, the war is still underway. And as regards private customers, and we're talking about the automotive business, and it's not that we have a very big incidence, it seems that things are more calm. And the fact that you can make a car 50% cheaper seems to have calmed things down. And it seems that the sector is presenting slight increments. I think that UNESPA believes that the insurance sector can grow a little bit, not very much, between 2 and 3%. Well, I think that it's mandatory then to move into our market, and that is into corporate risk insurance. And now that we're talking about supply and demand and about interest rate and excess capacity, the soft market, Dani, is this a soft market or is this a reality we have to coexist with? Well, I think that it's both things. Are we in a cycle? Yes, of course. Cycles are never going to end, and there will be cycles, but the trouble is that this cycle is extremely long, and the market is terribly soft. I don't like this. And you probably wonder, why is he saying this? Well, I remember September the 11th, the hysterical reaction from the market, and for risk managers it's very difficult to explain an event like that. I'm sure that the cycle will eventually change, but what I would like to ask the sector and the market is that things change in a tidy manner. And in this environment with nearly zero interest rates and with negative bonds, Well, investors want a return. So this is why there's too much capacity in the market, and this is why the prices are so low. But this will eventually change, and part of that money will go into other investment areas, and the market will become a little harder. Are we in a cycle? Yes, of course. But we're also dealing with a new market from my point of view. I think that this has been demonstrated when there have been major catastrophes, especially in 2011. That was a very bad year. And the insurance companies and reinsurance companies did your homework. The models are working. The models are flowing. And you have everything under control. And major catastrophes do not affect you like they did in the past. If there was a big earthquake in Chile in 2010, there was a hysterical reaction in the market. But 3 years later, we were at the same rates than before the Chile earthquake. So things have improved technically. So we're facing a new market situation. If you don't adapt to that, you've had it, you're dead, you're gone. Thank you very much. Juan Carlos, what about your view? How do you view the market? Well, I agree with what Dani said. And perhaps what I would have to say, however, is that the market is permanently changing, or at least our function as risk managers has to do with understanding how things are changing. And we're talking about a number of things here. But the other day, they asked us, do we insure drones or a certain drone? And I knew nothing about that, but in any case, we must change the market in a tidy manner. Some companies have called themselves global, and that global has a very big meaning, of course, and in the case of Mapfre, this is being taken on board with a very suitable strategy. And then I would like to refer to the markets. We've seen how the London Insurance Hub, or in New York and Miami and Singapore, well, we also have to take into account that the Madrid hub is an important hub with a very significant professional criterion, and that here training plays a very outstanding role. Thank you very much, Juan Carlos. Martín, and the role that is played by brokers in this new scenario, in this new model, in intermediation, consultancy. This is the eternal dilemma, isn't it? Commissions, fees, what can you say about this? Well, it's an old-fashioned and very boring issue, and things that I will not discuss unless it's in the presence of my lawyer, as it were. But no, I think that these are debates that all of the brokers have had, and I think that we are all tending towards advisory services and intermediation. And you can't think that the things are going to solve themselves on their own. No, you need to have properly trained staff. And I know that this is something we've been saying for many years, but right now it's one of the key issues. But is this going to arrive through commissions or fees? Well, I think that this forum with major accounts and major buyers, it's a forum where the broker and the customer are capable of sitting down and of working in a transparent manner. So we could not talk about generic issues, and we already discussed this in 2006. And they focused on commissions, and if you wanted to charge fees, you had to explain that. And we're still discussing the distribution directive in Europe. And the only thing that everybody is saying, and we should be aware of this ourselves, is that when a conflict of interests arises, you have to properly document that what you've done is intervene in an objective and independent manner in order to defend the interests of your client. And then I think the rest of things have to be forgotten. Dani, your vision now? What kind of role do you think brokers are going to play in this current market situation? And what about the future of brokers in our market? Well, from the point of view of large corporations like those that are represented here, I think that without a doubt consultancy, this is the future of brokers where there could be a much greater value. But I think that there's been a very healthy evolution in the market because at the beginning some of the brokers were uncomfortable. But it's true that we managers have a much more direct connection with our markets, and I think that that's healthy. A broker that provides value because they know a lot, they have lots of expertise. from my point of view, I think that this has to be done in a transparent manner. But how? I'm for fees, but fair fees. And I've discovered certain things that don't make any sense. And all of the risk managers know how much a service costs. And what we shouldn't do is move on to a low pricing policy. I've rejected some offers of this kind, and I think that the work that is being done is very important, and this work has to be paid for properly. I'm not a friend of commissions. I prefer fees, and fees that are fair too. But what about the future of brokers? Sophistication, providing value and knowledge. That is my way of seeing, that's the way I see things. Well, thank you, Danny. That was a very interesting point of view. I was going to ask Juan Carlos, because time is nearly up, and I was going to ask you about a very important issue, considering the people we have on this panel. So what is risk management like in Spain right now? How do you think it's going to change? And how would you train risk managers? And how can we make further progress? And how can we assist you, all of us that are operating in this market, so that you can let us know what has to be done exactly right now? Well, risk management is changing exponentially from our point of view. And as I said before, the market and technology is addressing new issues, and we have to pay close attention to what's happening, because every day we see something new happening. The other day when I was reading the press, I saw that apparently in the very near future it will be possible to print the bodywork of a car in 3D in 24 hours. That's not utopian, and it's been seen at the Detroit car exhibition that took place in January. So with this in front of us, who can dare think about any fires or explosions? And of course, training is going to play a fundamental role in this issue, and there are lots of initiatives that are being developed so that the risk manager profession can reach the necessary levels. And here we have Yula Graham, the chairperson of FERMA, and they're carrying out a European certification process for risk managers, which will be a very interesting project, and any young people arriving will have to take that on board. But in any case, and as was pointed out by Danny, I think that in risk management we have to be realistic, and there are three groups. This is my personal opinion. There's a group of risk managers that have the possibility, thanks to the large corporations we work for, of having means and resources so that we can address all kinds of issues, and also address any doubts that can be solved amongst friends. In other words, in a circle of influence that we've got more or less ready. And then there's a second group of risk managers who are continuous, and what they're going to do is make use of the inertia produced by large corporations, and they learn and transfer knowledge. And we believe that we're very fortunate with these companies, so we also have to launch these ideas downstream. And then there's another group of SMEs, as Martin said before, that require advisory services because they do not yet have this discipline fully covered, and they need to make progress. Martin, I was going to ask you, as I asked them, to say something about the role played by brokers in this market. And I would like to ask you, as the representative of the broker collective in Spain, of professional brokers, I would like to know your view in terms of the role played by risk managers in Spain. Are we really in a market that is making progress, that is becoming mature, or do you divide it into segments? Because, of course, it has to be divided into segments, but what I would say is that the higher the level of the country is, the more insurance policies are subscribed. So that means that there's a high degree of professionalization, and there's a greater awareness of all of these risks, and this means that risk managers become more and more necessary. So I don't believe that they are competitors, but rather they are the people that understand, that speak your same language, and that fully know what it is you're talking about. And at least we, not in the case of large risks, because this is something that our audience knows perfectly well, but rather in SMEs, We play a very mixed kind of role, if you want, but it's totally dedicated so that a company can have interlocutors. And we provide training, by the way, so that they can get to know the world of insurance. Because those that don't know what it's all about do not trust you. So you have to play that role too, yes. Well, there's no other option, I'm afraid. Well, I'm afraid that we're going to have to close this panel discussion. But I would like to leave a few more minutes to you people in the audience, if anybody wants to put a question to our distinguished speakers. Are there any questions in the room? And if not, I have one final question, and I promised these gentlemen that I was going to put a question. Well, they are close friends of mine, so it's a question for Juan Carlos and my friend Daniel, and the question is, where do you think that we should hold the next seminar, the next MAPFRE seminar, the 25th International Seminar? Well, why don't we go to Hawaii? I've never been there, so I wouldn't mind going. And anyway, there's a very captive market there too, to be addressed. Oh, now all of a sudden you're afraid, aren't you? Yes, that's a wonderful place. Yes, it's the silver anniversary, and I think that would be a wonderful venue. And well, I would encourage you to make the necessary efforts. Well, I will therefore close this panel discussion after discussing that issue, and we're now heading for the coffee break. So thank you very much.